Hey guys, welcome back to the Drop Panda podcast where twice a month 4 to 5 guys from Melbourne talk about nerdy stuff. I'm Adam, next to me is...
Julz, and today I'll be talking about video game modding.
My name's Duke, and I'll be talking about animation in adult films.
Yeah, my name's Dylan, and I don't have a topic.
He's our special guest for the day.
So, yes, I'm a special guest.
I'm Tim. My topic is going to be about horror and the various mediums that it pertains to.
And I'm Nick, and I'm going to be talking about Harry Potter.
And I'm Adam, once again.
Sorry, Adam, can I clarify something?
Yeah, sure.
By animation for adult films, I mean like... I don't mean for porn, I mean for films for like people over the age of...
So we're not discussing hentai today.
15-ish.
Well, we can if you want to.
Well,
man.
I've mentioned porn every week.
Maybe
I'm officially useless for this topic.
I don't judge.
And I'm talking about Superman, because Superman just turned 80 years old last week. Let's talk about Superman!
Yep.
Hey.
Right, so Superman turned 80 years old last week. Issue 1000 of Action Comics was released. It was like a 90-page issue.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Action comics.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
FYI, Action Comics is the first, showing of Superman. And I just want to ask you guys, everyone's seen the Superman movie, right?
Which one?
I have seen a Superman.
You've seen a Superman
I
movie.
think I've seen Superman 3 and then Man of Steel, and that's kind of it.
Man of Steel's a masterpiece.
Yeah,
It's pretty good.
Man of
No,
Steel.
no,
I didn't think it was nearly as bad as people
I was
did.
going to say, what?
Did you like it when, he was interacting with Zod and did a thing with his head?
All the stuff
Not
I
as
read.
much as I love Batman v Superman.
What was the Superman film before that one? The most recent one before
Yeah,
Man of
the
Steel?
2005 one with... what's his name?
Oh,
Yeah,
Brandon Roof.
that had a really good sequence where he caught the plane in the footy oval.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a really good
really
sequence.
enjoyed that movie.
Is that the one where he has a son in the sequel?
No.
It's the one with Kevin Spacey.
There was
Yeah,
a
that one-
sequel.
yeah.
sequel.
That's
Yeah.
it. I'm pretty sure that movie is actually a direct sequel to the old Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
It was a direct sequel to Superman 2, and
Yeah.
they ignored the
All the
other
others.
Supermans
Yeah.
that had come in between. It was a very
Wait,
confusing
you mean they
timeline.
ignored Superman for the quest for peace?
Yes.
Is that the one where is that the one where he uses his shield as a
Oh, dude,
as a,
I've
as
never-
a
His
net?
ass.
His ass as a net?
I've never
As a
seen
shield.
Possibly, yeah. Because there was a lot of goofball stuff that they didn't like in the third and fourth of the classic Christopher Reeve ones. So they just rewound the clock and said, "Hey, this is Brian Singer directing, by the way."
Wait, what?
that. Wait, the
pretty-
2005 one?
Yeah.
This is before
I
X-Men?
think he did. No,
No, it was after it. He
after.
didn't do one of the X-Men films because he was working
Yeah,
on
he didn't do the
Superman
third
instead.
Probably dodged
Yeah.
a bullet there. Shit.
Holy
Did
crap.
he? Did he really?
Yeah, he did. Have you seen X-Men 3?
Was that meant to be a pun?
No.
No?
No.
What is wrong with you?
Yeah, and the only Superman stuff, I've never really been into the character because I frankly think he's boring. But I got into Smallville when I was younger. That was a pretty cool show.
Yeah, back in the
There were 30 seasons of that, though.
There were 8. 30. Has anyone
8?
seen it? Yeah, 8 or...
I saw the first season
There were
of
10.
Smallville. It was very Monster of the Week sort of.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was in the early days.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what Flash is now.
Welcome to the early 2000s. I don't know what to tell you.
So what is your favorite Superman stories out of everything? Because
No,
Dark Knight Returns.
because we've got comics, we've got TV,
Yeah.
we've got movies, we've got games.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Do we?
The Superman game. 64.
Superman 64.
64, man. That was good
Get it
shit.
off.
I saw someone receive that as a present for their birthday once, and I was like, oh no.
That's not a bad
Wow.
Oh
Are
no.
they still friends? Or...
This was a long time ago, and
How
I
old are you?
actually I don't know the recipient that well. I don't know any of those people that well. I was like, they were the next table at a dinner or something.
Oh.
It was like,
Like, oh,
Poor
good
child.
God.
Yeah.
Thank God that wasn't me.
You're in for a surprise, buddy. I've never played it. so
Speaking
I've
of that,
seen it.
I'm actually interested now to see what Rocksteady might do, gaming wise, because we don't know what their next project is, and lots of people are thinking it might be
Hopefully
A
it's not
a
Superman.
Superman game.
Really? Have they said that? Have they leaked
That's
some
that's a big
information about it?
rumor.
is it
from what I've
Rockstar or Rockstar?
heard. No, it's Rocksteady.
Rocksteady.
Rockstar do GTA, so
Yes.
they're complete fucking
Yeah.
They wouldn't
You
be-
mean
Yeah.
The only
Rocksteady?
developer
Rocksteady,
of a game.
known for?
the
Arkham
Batman
games.
Arkham games.
Oh, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
So they've done this Batman, probably not as bad as a reputation as Superman gaming wise, but they managed to turn that around and make one of the great superhero gaming trilogies.
Yeah, and
So-
they already have a universe established
exactly.
that they can fit him into potentially.
Yeah, so that's a big rumor actually that they might be tackling Superman next.
So more head snapping Superman?
Probably
It
not.
would no, but it
That's
would
Zack
be.
Snyder.
Because I mean, how many people does Batman kill in those games?
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna
for
say,
real.
I've punched too many guys.
Nah.
Hits.
He only ever knocks them
They're
out.
knocked out. Like,
There's a
yeah, I
room-
flew down 30 feet and then kicked him in the head, and he's just knocked out.
Yeah.
There's a room in Arkham Asylum where you
Yeah.
run
Like a
in there,
bottomless
the floors
pit.
are
Yeah.
electrified, and there's a bottomless
Often.
pit behind like mesh wire.
I've kicked him off so
Punch
many
the guys
times.
off the edge. I don't know where they go.
Rocksteady have 17
They just went
available
to sleep.
jobs. If anyone's interested.
Wow.
Are you looking
two,
at
two in the dialogue
It's
department.
fact checking.
Oh, sweet.
So, All Star Superman.
All-Star Superman?
That's what I would say
Yep,
is my
All-Star
favorite
Superman.
rendition.
The-
Grant
the-
Morrison, come on.
All-Star.
mate.
I was gonna say the comic or the movie because that movie was
Have
weird.
you played the Injustice games?
I have. That's a great game. Both of them.
Because they're like focused around Superman as well, aren't they?
Becoming an
Yes.
evil dictator.
Yeah.
The second
Yeah.
one's supposed to be really good.
Naughty Superman.
I don't know. I don't know about the sequel being better
Oh,
than
it
the first
just-
one.
Which one just came out?
The second one.
Yeah,
that came
I
out
Last year.
the early last year.
Yeah, I heard it was pretty good. Like story-wise, it was awesome. I haven't played it. I got no idea.
No, but they are good games. They got the Injustice hype has gone down a bit because the last DLC was the Ninja Turtles.
What?
Yeah.
I've never heard of this.
So
Yeah, they had Hellboy as well.
at Hellboy, the Ninja Turtles, and then I think that's the other.
Doesn't
Like,
sound terrible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Hellboy's
they
pretty
do.
Why,
cool.
why did the hype go down after that?
you know, I was meant to go up, but
Yeah.
people complaining Ninja Turtles don't belong in the DC universe for
Fucking
anything.
brought in Hellboy. Hellboy's
What?
the
You don't
dark
want to
horse.
play as the Ninja
Oh, no.
Turtles against like Batman?
Because that's just silly.
Yeah.
Because that's the stupid part.
Michelangelo fighting Lobo. Fuck off.
I mean, they brought in one of the characters from Mortal Kombat as well.
Yeah, but that's a given because the developers are the same guys.
Yeah.
I think this time around they brought in like Sub-Zero. The first one they had Scorpio.
Yeah.
So that's a given.
I was gonna say, like, the only person who's actually contributed a favorite comic is Julian with All Star Superman, which I've read like, I don't know, 4 pages for some reason. I don't know why. I was interested. I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard really good things about it, and I had a little look at it when he stuck it in the universe with like, I think Bizarro or something. I could be wrong, but yeah, I've read fuck all.
So,
Like,
yeah, but why'd you read 4 pages and then just?
I don't know. I just got interested, and I just kind of like flipped through it a little bit, and that was it.
Oh, I
What,
see.
what you gotta do is go read issue 1000 of Superman.
Because it's Brian Michael Bendis.
Did they release a
Oh, is it?
special
Yeah.
like
He's
comic book for the anniversary?
They had like
Oh, they would.
19 different variants spanning between like each cover is spanning
That's a whole
between
other topic.
each generation.
That's
Okay.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
So by their reckoning, there have been 19 generations of Superman. That's
Yeah.
impressive. 80 years.
And
Generations, is that like different characters or like different iterations?
I think there's different like eras. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, generations.
Is that including like Superboy and
Yeah.
Superdog and Supergirl and all that?
Yeah.
The
I
Super
love that.
Family.
Yeah.
Why the
Hamster.
Super Family?
Even
Just
though
add
there's-
super in front of anything, and you can get a character made, guys.
Yeah.
They realized that in the
Pretty much.
70s. Super rad.
The new Superman is there's also a new Superman who's also Chinese.
Is it?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That-
That's another topic altogether.
I wonder what market that's pandering for.
Yeah.
China.
It's a tiny market. Why would they?
We want to promote an American icon to the Chinese people. How do we do that?
You guys seen the trailer for that film about? It's about a what's that massive shark called? Megalodon.
Oh, Meg. Yeah. It's
Meg.
got Jason Statham in it. It looks amazing. I want to see it.
Yeah, it's exactly split down the middle cast of Asian stars and American stars to pander to like the 2 biggest markets, and it's like the most obvious case of that I think I've seen. That's it.
No,
I'm not gonna go any deeper into that, or it's gonna get.
I'm gonna see
spicy.
it.
I'm not.
really? I reckon.
It looks shit.
Yeah, but it looks amazing. This giant shark.
There's a giant shark.
Yeah,
Like,
and it
nothing
looks
else.
animated.
Yeah. True.
Anyway, I gotta say my other favorite Superman story is probably Flashpoint. For those who've read it,
Is that the Flashpoint paradox?
That's
Yeah.
the one where Superman does nothing.
he does nothing. He's just
He's like,
emaciated. He's just a
in
fucking
Russia,
lab.
yeah, and he's like,
He's
he's
just a
like
lab rat.
a coward, and
Yep.
He's skinny as well. Doesn't
He's
know how to
just-
use
Here's
his
the thing. I
powers.
think
Malnourished and
I actually
disgusting.
think a character like Superman works best as a supporting character rather than a lead.
Sorry, there's I don't know if you guys have heard it or seen it or whatever, but there was like I just remembered there's like these in the 1930s there was these series of animated cartoons they made. Like Max Fleischer was hired
Yeah.
to produce a bunch of cartoons, like 10-minute shorts, and they're pretty innovative in like animation techniques, and they're really like visually like interesting to look at now still.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if anyone's seen those because they're like little quick bite-sized kind of like stories, like I don't know, who's Superman's love interest again? Like Lois.
Lois Lane.
Yeah, like she'll get kidnapped by some villain. He'll have to go out and save her. Like tear apart the walls and shit, and just get in there and get the job done.
I think I've seen some of those. I haven't seen all of them though.
Yeah, no, the look of that, like the Batman animated series when they started developing that was one of the things that they looked at as a visual reference point to sort of.
But what came
design.
first then? The Superman anime series or the Batman anime series?
Batman animated series was first.
Okay.
No, Batman was
But
90s.
this Batman animated
right.
series,
Because that was 90s, like 91 or whatever.
yeah.
Is this the Kevin Conroy one or the one before it?
The Kevin
Conroy,
yeah, that's
yeah.
it.
Yeah,
The
okay.
Mark Hamill, Kevin Conroy, that was
Yeah.
like 91 to like 94, and then they just kept it going.
Yeah, and then the Superman
Yeah.
animated series.
But like
And-
the ones
and
I'm
all
talking
those.
about were back in the 30s, like years
Yeah.
and years ago. Yeah, like they like hired them to do these animations, like 10 minutes, but they look really really cool.
Huh. I might check him out when I go
Check it
home.
out, like Max Fleisch's just Superman cartoons.
I don't know why, but for some reason, like the character's so well known and iconic, just right up there in like people's consciousness. Like
Yeah.
it makes me not really want to read any of his traditional standalone stories, no matter how iconic. I always want to read. It makes me want to read like Justice League more, where he's a side character, or like Tower of Babel, all that kind of thing, or like the alternate Elseworlds kind of things. Like what is it? Superman Red Sun, where instead of landing on the Kent farm, he lands in
Russia.
Yeah, in Russia.
Communist Russia.
Becomes a communist kind of dictator and all that kind of thing.
Have you seen Bruce Timm's Gods and Monsters?
No.
Where he lands in Mexico and he's like speaks half Spanish.
Sounds interesting.
And he's the son of Zod instead of Jor-El.
Okay, that's fucked.
Oh, okay.
That's
Yeah.
already fucked.
Yeah. But it's Bruce Timm, so he's
I love when they do that, when they take like an established character and just throw him in somewhere completely like different.
The what if
Gotham by
stories.
Gaslight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Gotham by Gaslight.
Oh, I love that.
Still haven't seen that movie yet.
I'm gonna.
Still haven't read it.
I'm saying a Batman night at some point.
Didn't you do that like 2 weeks ago?
No, I didn't get
Like
to.
2 months ago.
I didn't get to. No, that one fell
Jesus.
apart, so I got to reschedule that. But yeah.
Jesus.
Nick,
Yes.
I'll see the Meg if you see it.
All right. Deal. Absolutely.
I haven't even seen the trailer yet.
I have no idea what this
It's
movie is
pretty
about.
fantastic.
Is it though?
I think it's tongue in cheek.
Who's that chick in John Wick 2 who looks like she's always really angry?
And she's got that like hairstyle that's like
hot
cool,
hairstyle.
She is kind of
cool
hot.
and
though.
like in hairstyle.
All right, so that
I'm
leads
gonna
us.
come across great in this
Anyway.
podcast.
That leads us nicely into my topic. I'd like to talk about video game mods and the modding scene and all the things surrounding that. So, just to start with, has anyone experimented with modding video games?
Never.
Yeah.
Yep.
a little
Never.
bit.
Have you?
It's kind of restricted to PC gaming though, isn't it?
It is
That
that.
you can get it on like Xbox a little bit.
So Bethesda are sort of at the forefront of this, and they have enabled modding for the Xbox and PlayStation versions of their games, Skyrim and Fallout 4. So if you are a console gamer, you're not necessarily restricted anymore. Obviously, it is traditionally a very PC orientated scene.
It'll get bigger, I think. I
Yeah.
it's only going to spread.
Well, I mean, in some sense, like even Minecraft, a lot of the community around Minecraft is all about modding and custom creation. So it's sort of it was a very in thing as long as Minecraft was an in thing, and that still is quite popular amongst the kids. So what Tim, was your experience with modding?
Less so for like experimentation, and more so because just out of necessity, I'd say. Like
Okay.
Like, cause I haven't got a gaming laptop. I generally play games that I missed out on back in the day, or were PC exclusives back in the day that I didn't have access to, but now do because of Steam. But yeah, I've run across like glitches or
Right.
say texture updates, or like Quake. I modded Quake as well just to get it a bit more presentable. That's just that kind of thing. Like I've had a game crash. I was playing like Call of Cthulhu or whatever, and there's this horrible, because it's buggy as shit, that game, but it's fucking awesome. And there's a glitch where there's literally a game stopping glitch in there where I had to quickly go find a fan made mod just to skip over that little section.
Right.
Just so it's more.
So
that
it
kind of
didn't
thing.
even fix the glitch, just like bypassed it entirely.
Just to bypass that.
Wow.
It's only like it's one little bit. You shoot like 3 things with like 3 enemies or whatever with like and with an AA gun, but that's pretty much it.
Wow.
So like like a minute's worth of gameplay. So
Yeah, no, but it's still like there's definitely an element of that in the community where modders step in to fix things that they see as completely broken or missing.
yeah, it's great. Yeah, if the developers if they go under and they're not there to actually work on the game anymore,
Absolutely.
I reckon it's great that they can open it to the community to play around with it and make it how they want it and fix the bugs that they find themselves, rather than reporting it to the. Sorry.
There's a popular mod where you just make the characters naked.
Well, that's see, this is the thing
People like that
is there's a bit. I think there might be a in the wider gaming community. There's some sort of perception that modding is only for naked people, for putting naked people into the game.
I'll have you know, mate. Like when you first said mods, the first thing that came into my head was, Macho Man Randy Savage on a dragon. And then
Yeah, that's
that was
great.
it.
I'm thinking Skyrim.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's literally
It doesn't get better than that.
it does because there's a Thomas the Tank Engine version of Batman as well,
Oh, wait.
where Thomas the Tank Engine comes in as a dragon.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool.
have you seen that video?
I've seen it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's this perception that it's a bit of a joke, and or it's for the lewds, and but I'm thinking about this a lot because I've jumped back into Fallout 4. There's a problem with Fallout 4. I don't know how many of you guys have played it, but there's an element of the gameplay which is about rebuilding the Commonwealth.
Oh god.
And you have to rescue settlers and then you have to build the settlements. And the shitty thing about it is that the settlers can't seem to do anything for themselves. They actually cannot.
Yeah.
You have to tell them where to plant farmlands. You have to tell them where to build fences. You have to do all this shit. And it drives me nuts. I've replayed Fallout 4 a number of times. One of the main reasons I drop out of it is because of this settler building thing, which I want to make the most of the system, but it's just tedious and boring when you have to do it 20 odd times. And so there's this new mod that's come out in the last few months called Sim Settlements, and it's got an expansion called Rise of the Commonwealth, which basically makes your cities into sim cities where you can designate zones which are for recreation or residence or commercial or industrial, and then the settlers will jump in and over a period of time that city will develop. And the Rise of the Commonwealth expansion is one where the modders, who have done an incredible amount of work, they've actually gone through and designed entire cities from the base that Bethesda has delivered. And so you'll say, and it's really well balanced because you need someone to lead the city, to be the mayor of Sanctuary, for example. And so you'll say, okay, Preston Garvey, I don't want to walk around with you with your friggin' attitude. You're going to be the mayor of Sanctuary, and then a few days in game later, you can come back and you'll see all the walls have gone up. They've put turrets out. They've done everything they need for this colony to survive, and you haven't had to do anything really. Cool. You can be as hands off as you want, and it makes the game playable. It's something that should have been they could have released it as an official expansion or official DLC. It's that well thought out and well done. And it's just completely revitalized the game for me. And I know in the past there have been other games where I've had a pretty good time with it, but then modding has really, really stepped it up and taken it to the next level and made it much more enjoyable. And so that's why I wanted to bring this topic to the table. So
I think a mod that I discovered the other day was there was at one stage going to be a Halo Online game for PC.
Ah, yes.
That got cancelled.
Right.
And so the community has developed something called El Derito, if you can say that better than me. Than
El Derito, yeah.
El Derito. It's a community-made mod for Halo Online. So pretty much open source Halo 3 assets.
That's pretty interesting because I got it. Did you guys hear lately with in regards to Bethesda letting them all open up the modding space? There was a team that were modding Fallout. They were going to make Fallout 3 in Fallout 4's engine, and they had the game pretty well built. It was coming on really well, but then they hit a snag with
the legal
the vocals, the dialogue.
Oh, okay.
With the sound. They were going to record it themselves. They realized that with their current plan, they were going to get like tangled up in legal shit. Like, so they just dropped it. Like, they're not doing it anymore.
That's really unfortunate.
Yeah, but like, it's obviously had like a whole team of people working on it, like really hard, really passionately. But they were also in close like talks with Bethesda. Like, it wasn't just them doing their own thing. Like, they were actually like, you know, discussing it with them, like with their, you know, kind of participation on the side. But it's kind of sucks that like it got pulled.
So many dead games.
They're still working on New Vegas' mod though, like Fallout 4. I don't know. If they're
Oh,
gonna
New
follow the
Vegas
same
in the
one.
Fallout 4 engine.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I haven't played New Vegas yet.
It's one of the better Fallouts.
Yeah, I hear it's great. Man.
So those mods, just a quick question, are they typically free? Like, how do the mod developers gain from it? Like,
so-
what do they get from it?
Bethesda has started to try to monetize some of the content with their creation club.
Was that through Steam?
No, it's on every platform that they've got games on.
Oh.
So you can jump into the game and there's on the main menu there's a creation club menu item you can click on and go through some of the officially sanctioned Bethesda mods. But actually everything is free if you like, and it's a bit unwieldy. So it's not actually that easy to install a mod manually, but there are also tools that you can use to install them for you and run it perfectly fine. And there's minimal fuss. It does get annoying upgrading a mod because it's not automated. But yeah, like it's crazy. Like I think a lot of modders are supported by platforms like Patreon and stuff like that, but heaps of them make no money at all off their mods. They just do it for the love of it, or because they think there's something that's broken that they have the ability to fix, and they're just sharing it with the world for joy.
Can easily be a gateway into an actual like development career as well. Like,
Yep.
I think there's a huge legal thing behind that as well.
Yeah, but like,
Yeah.
what was Team Fortress the original one? Was that a Half-Life?
Oh
mod?
yeah, that's
It
true.
was indeed, yeah.
And then they made Team Fortress 2, and then look at that. Like that was so
Yeah.
friggin' successful for quite a while.
Absolutely, yeah. A
People
lot
still
of
playing that game, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Surprisingly.
they're still
Wow.
they're
I
still
know, right?
trading
It's
hats.
been out for however many years.
Oh, hats and scrap metal. Oh, God. This brings back
Just the hats.
PTSD.
But yeah, like definitely a lot of modders, like they're obviously very skilled and they know what they're doing in terms of coding and modeling and all that sort of stuff that goes into game design. They get jobs and yeah.
Well, I want to bring up a discussion regarding the genre of horror, one of my favorites. Just talk about which mediums the genre is suited best for, like like games, movies, TV, comics, film, obviously. So
For the horror genre.
yeah.
Just to point out, I am really bad with horror movies, so I'm like the worst person to ask. I think I mentioned this. Like last time, but the last horror movie I watched was The Reaping.
Oh,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
really bad.
See, I think horror in video games could be quite immersive and like absolutely like horrific if done right. Like in what was that Silent Hill game?
Yeah,
PT.
Silent Hill 2,
Oh, yeah.
PT.
The PT game with like if you combine that with like a VR headset, I think that would kill most
I
people.
gotta say,
Resident Evil 7
It is in VR, yeah.
yeah, I gotta say, like with horror and everything, like you've got it in like literature, and it's a lot more slow and it's a lot more plotting, and it's usually like my experience with horror is mostly gothic horror in literature, but like
Same.
games are kind of uniquely
Interactive.
like they're like uniquely like prepared to be able to like handle this in like a way that we haven't seen before, because the idea of horror in itself is to put you in a position of like fear, and it's easier to put them in that position when you're straight up playing the game, when
You
you're
have
like
to make
controlling the
them.
character and you have to like make like decisions at a time and everything. There's some pretty damn effective ones out there, like Silent Hill, like first person as well, particular like Resident Evil 7 and
It's
like
right in your face.
Amnesia. It's just like horror movies will still get you, like
I just
Right.
watched this. I didn't just watch it. I recently watched a video comparing the aspect of isolation with horror, comparing it to movies and video games, and it's like that whole like how it doesn't quite capture it as well in film, because you need to have apparently more characters. You need to have side characters on their dialogue, so the viewer doesn't get bored. Whereas if you play a horror game, most of the time you're alone, like by yourself. So it really captures that aspect, I'd say.
Yeah, true.
I think I saw that video as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's about the fact that, you don't need to worry about, like, all this extra dialogue and, like, character plot
Just
to
get
keep
immersed.
people motivated, because the idea is they're playing the game, so they're
Yeah.
inherently, like, involved anyway.
Yeah, it's like I reckon it's the most immersive platform
Yeah.
to like view content.
Yeah.
There is one important problem for me with video game horror games, which is that if I feel like I get to a point where it's too frightening for me, I can just stop playing it, and then I'll never see the ending of it.
That is super interesting.
Like a horror film, even if it's petrifying me, like even if I'm really scared, I'll let it keep going.
You're in there. You're in the theater.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You already
But,
paid money.
There's the passiveness as well. You can
Yeah.
easily just cover your eyes. You don't have to
Yeah.
worry about pushing anything forward
Yeah.
like a game.
So like with Amnesia, and one of the great successes of Amnesia is that because there's really no way to fight back against the horrifying things that are chasing you, it's very intense. And I think a lot of horror games like Resident Evil series, it doesn't scare me. Like even like Dark Souls or Bloodborne, I don't find them scary because it's just a matter of becoming powerful enough or skillful enough to
Yeah.
defeat the
not even
enemies.
not even the voice acting in Resident Evil scares you.
No, not necessarily. And the audio design is obviously a big part of what makes horror successful
Like
in
Dead
most
Space.
cases. Yeah.
Actually,
I didn't find
So
Dead
what-
Space to be that scary.
No.
The atmosphere, I'd say, and the
Bioshock.
sound design is fucking impeccable. in
see,
Dead
I
Space.
say I'm scared of horror, but I've played all of Dead Space 2, I think it was. Yeah, I
It's
wasn't
a lot more action though.
Yeah.
Go back and play the first one. Like shit.
So what?
So awesome.
What are we defining as horror? What did you say before, Dylan? That it's something that makes you feel fear in
The
any
idea is
way.
that, yeah.
'Cause, like, there's,
Uncomfortability, dread.
Yeah, because there's certain levels of horror where there's
there's like-
spectrums.
there's like get scared at something jumping out at you, and there's like deep psychological fear from
Yeah.
themes.
I
So
think
I
we're
don't
across
think
all spectrums.
I don't think it matters what genre, whether it's a film or a game. If it's something that is horrifying you on a level of like an insecurity you have or something you fear, then that's going to be what's powerful. So I feel like it depends for each person. So like I'm not much of a gamer. That's just the truth of it for me. But when I look at games that people play, and Dylan might should be able to shut this down, but it seems to be the horror level seems to be somewhat on like a, for at least most games, on like a primal level. Like it's like you're in scary locations, scary things are happening to you, blah 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 blah. Whereas based on a lot of my favorite horror films, they're always, at least the ones that scare me, they're appealing to things that I find personally existentially scary. So that's why I choose film, just based on the preference and how it appeals to me.
Can you give some examples?
I get that because
Yeah, I can.
like games and everything, it's more like you put in a situation like Silent Hill. It's like a lot of the fear in that is the setting, and it's like the vulnerability and like the tension of like not being able to know like where the danger's coming from. But like I don't think that games would be able to do like that kind of insidious like Rosemary's Baby, like Get Out type of horror where it's like, it creeps in by the fact that purely they can take breaks in between. Like horror games are like it's relentless. It's like you're in there all the time, and like good ones you're not going to get like a chance for like respite. Whereas these ones, it's like there's a certain mystery and dread that would unfold, and it's like I don't think games can take the time out to like really express that as well as like film can.
Can I give you an example based on what you just said?
Yeah, definitely.
And this is for you, Tim. So I'll try not to spoil this, but I watched for the first time a week ago. I've actually got notes up about it. I watched the Babadook. Is it Babadook or Babadook?
Babadook.
Babadook. Anyway, it's an awesome film, and it's exactly what Dylan just said, because the reason it scares me is the film, and why it's so intelligent, the film's drawing a lot of comparisons between kind of the horror cliches and things of being possessed and all these kind of things with how mental illnesses in any form creep into us and take over us without control, and how we can overpower them through our awareness of them. And it does this by being at sometimes scary, sometimes about possession, sometimes about horror, things going bang in the night, and then legitimate scenes of exposition where we're looking at these people's lives and what's driving them to do these things. And I would say that most horror games, based on what I've seen, like Dylan said, they won't stop for like a half an hour scene with a mum and her child going around and how the neighbours feel about this and kind of boiling up her frustration that allows that to happen. So that's why, and like, so another film I find so scary is like The Shining is so scary to me as well.
Yeah.
So those levels of fear, the stuff that scares me, I don't see myself getting that out of a video game.
You playing the wrong games.
Maybe, absolutely correct. I haven't played many video games.
I think, just definitely, I think it's probably like the type of horror, because I think it definitely works for games and like, you know, wouldn't work for movies. And then vice versa as well.
Exactly. That primal level, I feel like is more successful in games.
I would say if you get into the deep lore of something like Bloodborne, there are definitely elements of, like, there are really disturbing moments in that game where you realize what the world is and why it is the way it is, and I can't sort of articulate it off the top of my head, but yeah, if you
it's hard.
Yeah,
I've stuffed it up before.
Bloodborne's pretty damn complicated.
but there's a lot, and there are some really good YouTubers who are out there explaining it. So yeah, if you're interested, it might be worth looking into.
Yeah.
It's not something you'll ever play yourself probably, but
Have you guys ever played like survival horrors, like The Forest,
oh yeah,
where you're like
I got really into that type of
you and your son
game
crash
for a
landed on an island?
Oh, that kind of, oh yeah.
Oh, like Don't Starve.
So, but yeah,
Yeah.
total survival stuff. I thought you meant full-on survival, like classic survival horror.
Like DayZ?
No, like
Nah,
well, like
God.
the procedural ones where it's like you're dumped
Yeah.
in an open world and you have to go around scavenge for shit and build up your resources and survive for like a certain amount of time while also being like hunted by like enemies.
I was
So,
feeling
like,
sorry.
What I found most disturbing was like the creativity that people, like the developers, could like had to come up with some of the monsters and mutants.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty horrific, the stuff that like you encounter in that game. It's pretty gross.
Yeah, I saw the trailer. I remember watching it with you, and I'm like, that's fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, they're like moving trees that like just.
Yeah, and like the physics engine really made it so realistic. It was crazy.
I was just gonna say, Adam, before we finish on this topic, can I kind of branch off into something that's related to horror, but not like
By all
exactly
means,
this
yeah.
question? Who wants to hear some film theory?
Go on.
Film
Always.
theory.
Dylan, do you know how to pronounce this guy's name?
Who's that?
All right.
Whoa. Svetan Todorov,
All right.
I believe.
So
I
this
butchered.
bloke is a film theorist, and he's got a super interesting kind of breakdown of what makes things scary. And this is something that I find super fascinating because I agree with it completely. Which is there's 3 factors that contribute what type of horror we're dealing with, and the one is the uncanny, which is when things are unusual but they're ultimately explainable in the natural world. So, for instance, the house is haunted, but it's rusty pipes.
Yeah.
Things like that. And then the complete other end of that is the marvelous, where it's clearly supernatural and nothing is explainable by the natural world. So, like demons blowing down doors. But what he kind of argues, I think, is that what makes it scary is what he calls the fantastic, which is categorized between like the hesitation we experience when we're dealing with kind of that middle point between what's rational and what's supernatural. So when you, and that's for a perfect instance for me again is the Babadook, where it is dealing with things like possession and whatever, but it's dealing them in ways that are drawing links to real life things like mental illness, and it becomes horrifying when you view things like that in the scope of being possessed. So that's just like a little thing I wanted to add. I think that's really fascinating.
It kind of brings me to
Oh,
Silent
yeah.
Hill 2, actually, or just Silent Hill in general. How like the monsters in the world and the imagery and all this symbolism is actually, you know, all a representation of the person who's in Silent Hill, of their mental illnesses
Yeah.
and their problems
And
and
there are like
yeah.
psychological
Yeah.
demons coming, like physically manifesting
yeah.
to like take them down. But on Silent Hill 2, really quick, like it's cool because they take in another way how games kind of do horror like differently, like in the way of the like medium. Video games, like in Silent Hill 2, you have like collectibles and everything, and like if you look at like, you know, for example, he'll show up, he's got a photo of his wife. If you spend too many times
Yeah.
going into the menu and
Looking
physically
at it.
looking at the photo, like it changes the ending, it changes like
Oh.
the difficulty, it changes like the
makes you
psychological
more
aspects,
suicidal.
and like makes him more suicidal because there's like 4 or
That's
5
amazing.
different endings in that game. and depending on what you do, like there's a hallway at the
Small
end where
shit
you
as
run
well.
through, and like you're hearing a recording, and if you stop and listen to the entire recording and everything, it will change like the outcome as well. Like it all reflects like every decision in that game has been made to reflect like James's psyche, like your character's
That's cool.
psyche. It's sick.
I was gonna quickly just bring it over to books and literature and all that stuff because we didn't really touch on it. For a while, I would have said that I don't really find much fear or any kind of terror, or like a comic book could be horror, but I don't find myself affected by it all that much.
No.
Until I read, I came across this horror manga author,
Yes, thank you.
Junji Ito, who's it's very Lovecraftian actually. Like it's really classic kind of like those original Japanese monsters rooted in folklore, but at the same time it's still very much based in like the modern kind of contemporary settings and everything like that, like Tokyo and all that stuff. Just like back in the 80s when a lot of it was written. But yeah, like a lot of his stuff, if you look at some of his like reveal images of some of the monsters or creatures, I find it just so unsettling. So compared to like say Americans, where it just
What kind of creatures are they?
It's just indescribable, kind of like really disgusting. He doesn't
Your
try.
description.
It's like say you watch a horror manga or something. Like I was watching Tokyo Ghoul recently, and it's like the elements are there, but it just looks so clean and good and everything, just so well drawn. You don't really find much of a sense of like grittiness, whereas his stuff is just absolutely disgusting.
Is this the one that you showed me the video on?
Yeah, I showed you some stuff of it.
Yeah. So like one of the ones that was in it was this town is
Uzumaki.
almost being tormented by like these balloons, like where it's just their heads.
The hanging balloons. Yeah. It's the one concept. A celebrity's basically seemingly committed suicide on the power lines just outside of a second-story window, and it turns out it basically creates this mass hysteria, and eventually her ghost is reported to have been seen, but it turns out that they're actually creatures, completely unexplained. We don't know what their origin is, what their real purpose is, but they seem determined to go out, and basically the creatures are giant floating heads attached with nooses, basically, instead of like running down from the neck.
Like think of a balloon.
Pretty
like,
much.
their head
Pretty much a
is
giant
like
air
the person's
balloon.
face.
Yeah.
And then like rope is like an actual noose, and it goes after the person whose face it has.
Ah.
and,
Yeah.
like,
Oh
tries to-
man.
So does everyone in the world have one of these?
Yeah, every single
the
person.
town.
It's
Oh,
so
shit.
disturbing. Yeah, like those kind of really fucked up concepts. Like you just turn the page and like,
Yeah.
because generally like
that's horrifying.
it's
Psychological.
fucking,
It is.
It's so surreal and disgusting in the best way, which I've never seen in comic books or manga or anything like that. Like,
Such a brilliant
it's so
idea.
detailed as well.
As far as I know, it doesn't end with some like
No.
laser in the sky, like
No.
standoff deal, and like it just kind of happens.
Everyone basically like completely like, basically like one of the balloons gets shot with a bow and arrow, like a crossbow, and that person like it deflates, and then suddenly right next to the protagonist, air quote, basically right next to that person whose balloon just got shot,
Yeah.
her face deflates in the exact same manner.
Oh,
It's
shit.
Check this shit out.
So
It's,
you
Yeah, I'll check it out.
it's brilliant. Yeah,
That's right.
Shit.
it's
So do the
Lovecraftian.
balloons actually kill people?
They fucking kill everyone basically.
Yeah, they're trying to hang them. Like they have the nooses at the end. They're
Yeah.
going after the person.
Ah.
They
It's-
resemble and
yeah.
kill them.
It's just
Do they are they fast or are they like walking
I
speed?
imagine that
pretty
it's-
fast actually.
They're fast.
Was it like
They're
it
floating.
follows or is it like
They're like floating in
It's
the
it
sky.
follows. They are everything's relentless.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
That's such a
These-
horrifying thought.
It is.
So much of it is like there's another character, Tomy, I think, which is a recurring one because generally it's short stories. They're all short stories. Basically, I think it's this schoolgirl who gets murdered by her teacher and all of her classmates, and is basically doomed to be resurrected over and over, and just goes and just basically causes havoc and mayhem amongst the people who she comes into contact with. Just like these fucked up, just short stories. Pretty much Lovecraftian Japanese manga, basically.
Japanese are pretty fucked up.
Gritty and disgusting and perfect.
They've got some pretty good minds.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're pretty fucked up from that thought.
Moving on. Nice segue.
In honour of Isle of Dogs, which I don't really even care about, so I don't know why I'm doing this, but should more adult films be animated? Again, all right. Two things I have to clarify.
Should there be more
So people
serious
don't.
epics?
So people don't come back in the future when I'm famous and hate me. Isle of Dogs. I don't not care about Isle of Dogs because I think it's shit. It's probably amazing and beautifully crafted, and it's just not my personal style.
Wes
Anyway,
Anderson.
Yeah, has anybody
Yeah,
actually seen
he's
it?
a spicy boy.
No.
I appreciate his craft a lot. I just personally aren't all over it. And again, adult films meaning like whatever. Just not porn.
Mature theme.
Mature
Without everyone fucking every 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got Yoko Ono.
Not children's.
Yeah, it's got everybody in it. Man.
So again, I think that
Bunch of white.
the more detailed breakdown of this question is: are there pros to animation that more adult films could benefit from if the medium was more widely accepted outside of just children and family films?
I'm not sure it ever will be. I feel like Disney's kind of put the stigma on permanently. Like, do you guys remember Big Mouth when that came out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Full on puberty, like total satire, everything like that. It was there was a lot of when it came out. Yeah, there was so much controversy because all these parents allowed their kids to watch it because like, oh yeah, it's a cartoon, it's for kids. And fuck.
That's just parents being dumb
It's got
cunts.
the R rating there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What do we say about Rick and Morty then? Because that's clearly an art. Like an adult.
That is as dark as it gets.
So I think like you have to delineate between TV and film here because I think TV's made a lot of strides in this space.
Mostly comedies though.
Yeah, mostly. Yeah, this is
So
true.
let's say dramas for argument's sake.
You know what?
true.
Like if you look at the history of animation, it's kind of depressing because when it first came out, there were actual like adult themes explored in these animations. Like they weren't solely directed towards children because let's face it, animation and the fact that we can like achieve it is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, why wouldn't it be like why it wasn't like initially just a straight up like pandering to kids, but like the code came in, so all these restrictions came in, so like they turned into instead of like these cartoons that like they were like a bit amateurish, like it was still the early days, like they weren't really complex story like plots and everything, but like they dealt with like death and mortality and like they weren't afraid to be a bit racy with like their sexual kind of stuff. And then the code came in and they had to like make them more like kid friendly, and that's how it became. And Walt Disney came in, like had a monopoly on it, and that's how it became more of like seen as a kids medium. And it's the stigma's still there, but like Wes Anderson, like adult themed like animations and everything, they're pretty awesome. And it sucks that like it kind of skewed off like that.
What I want to think about is what advantages does animation bring to the table that you wouldn't do in a...
I think caricature is a massive one.
Yeah.
So like the fact that you can have your protagonist and your antagonist be human characters, but just through the actual visual style, you can make them quite, horrifying or affectionate or just in the actual animation style.
Grotesque.
So like a really good example of that is the Aussie bloke that we all watched. He just did the Rick and Morty.
Bushworld Adventures.
Oh yeah.
Fuck. Holy shit.
Yeah. Think about the power that imagery has on you sometimes.
Yeah.
Dude, like they change his straight up appearance like just to fit like the emotional like cue they want to get. Like there'll be one point where he'll look fucking terrifying holding a gun to like Morty's head.
Yeah.
And the next he'll be like, hey Morty.
Michael Cusack.
They literally swap them. They actually like I watched it. Like, I don't know how many fucking times I watched it, but like around the third or fourth time, I noticed pretty much every cut it's a different animator.
Oh.
They got this really detailed kind of Disney animator at times. They got this other guy who's really like a really crude kind of like quick just go over on everything, like not very detailed at all. Like it's pretty much
it snaps so quickly between different artistic styles. Like there's
But
one scene where he finishes the conversation. He just like it's like three different animations of him just waddling away into the
pretty
distance.
much,
He's like Goku and like one point punching a steering wheel. It's like it's just we're not kidding. He's straight up there and like do a little bit of animation. They change his straight up appearance.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
It's great.
I think So going back to the topic, you can't discuss this without discussing Don Bluth, and All Dogs Go to Heaven, all his movies, Watership Down. Like I haven't seen a lot of them, but he is very well known for trying to bring animation out of this ghetto that it's found itself in.
Right.
Throughout the 80s and 90s, I want to say. But yeah, he didn't succeed.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
and it was difficult for him, and it was difficult for the industry, the animation industry, I guess, because of the stigma and because it was difficult to market something that was drawn cartoon,
Yeah.
but aimed towards adults.
Because it feels
Yeah.
like you either have to, the only way to break this mold, it seems like, is to go the opposite and pull a sausage party.
Right.
And go,
Yeah.
let's make it
Yeah.
so filthy.
Wow.
But that kind of defeats the purpose because the fact that
Yeah.
it's so subversive, it's just like, oh, we've got this one thing. There's
Yeah.
There's nothing. It's either the one side of the spectrum or the other. There's no real in between.
Rather than what if we just made
Yeah.
a film about whatever animated?
Yeah, that's really made. There's nothing
Yeah.
really that's like that. That's made waves and made more people do it. It's more like, oh, there's this other huge fucking movie, like totally, totally abrasive. Just oh, okay, we're done with that. And the next one's just going to come out in another few years. And
Has
be all
anybody
controversial.
actually seen like Watership Down here?
I actually haven't.
It kind of plays like a almost like a Peter Rabbit story, like one of these old children's like stories. We're watching anthropomorphic animals like talking to each other, but it's a really like dark, like really violent kind of film as well that kind of surprised people when it came out. Like it was late 70s. But like I think the problem is there's not enough examples of like they're few and far between of like actual serious like animated films now because the stigma is so ingrained. But like Wes Anderson's cool because I feel like if it was gonna turn around, it would be because like auteur directors and like established directors dip their hand in because Wes Anderson's done it before. Like
Yeah, it's great that he does it.
Fantastic
he
Mr.
did like
Fox.
Fantastic Mr. Fox, did like Isle of Dogs, still doing it. But like if Scorsese, like Hugo, didn't he do like an animated movie?
yeah,
That's not animated.
They're like partly animated. No, Tim, Steven Spielberg and all that. Like
Yes.
they're working their way in, but like they're not fully like taking steps to do it. But like if they did it and it like became more of an established thing, I feel like it would probably help to change the stigma.
That would be a perfect way to do it. Yeah.
I just want to give a shout out to Australian cinema while we're doing this.
Good.
You guys,
How'd you put
do you guys? Nah, that's all right. Do you guys? I don't know if Duke's seen it. I know Dylan's seen it because we were in the same class for it. Do you remember was it Mary and Max?
Yeah.
That is a fucking
Yes.
masterpiece.
Oh my God. I've seen that.
Perfectly straddles the line
That
between.
film
Holy
is
smokes.
100% what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's so good.
How did I not bring that up? It's like one of my favourite films.
Yeah, Harvey Krumpet as well, man. That movie's
And Harvey Krumpet, which won the first Australian
Yeah.
short film Oscar, didn't it?
it won the Academy Award for like short
Best
animation.
animation, and it's
Yeah.
so adult.
Which is pretty impressive.
Mary
Yeah.
and Max, yeah.
That's the kind where
Impressive.
because he does like the idea was when they first did animation, you had all this untapped potential. That's why they look really surreal because
Yeah.
you could do it.
Yeah.
And Adam Elliott kind of does it's this surrealistic aesthetic with kind of plotting along characters, but like really fucking dark themes.
And it's so beautiful too. Like it's a. And if anyone hasn't seen Mary Max,
Yeah, check it out.
it's like a
I'm
must.
somehow still not bored of it, and I saw
I
it.
didn't like it the
20
first time I
times.
saw it.
Wow.
I fucking hated it the first time
Yeah.
I saw it, and then
Me too.
second
What?
time it took the beams finally kicked in, and I'm like, holy shit, okay.
So what did you not see in the first time that you did?
I actually, ironically, I didn't quite because I was kind of half watching it because we had to watch it for school, so I was kind of like
That already
yeah,
puts you in a zone.
Exactly, and I'm
Yeah.
like, man, it's just a goddamn kids movie, and then we finally finished it off, and I'm like, yeah, right, okay, and we watched it again, and it's like, oh, okay, like the actual adult themes and all that, like depression and all
Yeah.
that stuff finally seeped in. And I'm like, oh shit, okay,
Yeah.
it's pretty unique. You don't see many animated movies like that, sadly.
I feel like actually, interestingly, Australia, it feels very Australian that one of the few films that does what we're talking about would come from
Here, yeah.
from
Yeah.
Australia, because we don't really have the same rules as a lot of other countries. Like if you look at our film industry, it is completely cooked as fuck. Like I don't have time to get into it, but we had a period, for instance, where we would give people tax incentives to make independent films to such an intense degree that you could make a film that fucking bombed and profit off the tax anyway. Watch an exploitation cinema come out Howling Free that was just trash and we're just hilarious. So to think that we would release a film like this actually kind of makes sense.
Hilarious. Yeah.
That's pretty funny. Alright, well, moving on to my topic. It's a bit of a change of pace, but I'm going to be talking about Harry Potter and its comeback in recent years. So the original Harry Potter series, which was a book series, finished in, I think it was
2009, I think.
yeah. and the films finished a bit later. They recently made a comeback in was it Magical Beasts and Where to Find Them?
Fantastic.
Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Still haven't seen any of those movies.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
out of the loop, man.
And
I saw that.
they've got 5 films lined up, and they're going to release one every year,
No.
once every
too
2
much.
years.
So,
Look, I fell asleep in Fantastic Beasts.
The first
Beasts in the
I didn't
cinema.
see it.
In the first one.
same.
I didn't see the appeal. And to be fair, I'm not a Harry Potter fan. But
Are you a pothead?
my so but my feeling watching Fantastic Beasts was that the bad guy was right. Like,
Voldemort was right?
no, it wasn't Voldemort in that film. It was
Oh.
someone who turned out to be Johnny Depp, and then I felt bad. But
It turned out to be wait. What?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
Johnny Depp
it's a very
played
strange
the villain.
It's very strange.
You think it's Colin Farrell, and then it becomes Johnny Depp. So
I haven't seen it, but
It's
I read
such a
it,
shame.
so-
But anyway, it was just like, because his whole point was that, like, why is the magical world hiding when we've got so much potential? And, like, we could help people, we could do stuff to influence the real world. And like, I was like, yeah, yeah, you're right, man.
Those damn muggles.
Killmonger had a point.
We're doing it. I kind of like personally after like Harry, I grew up like reading them, like not exactly like it's not what got me into books. Like I was already reading before that, but like I read them and you know I enjoyed them in that. I watched the movies with everybody else, but by the end I was like,
Yeah.
I don't
done.
think I see this as like you know the be all and end all that a lot of people give it like credit for.
Yeah.
Like I can leave it.
There, I would say like, really, they should have just stopped after the original series. Like they're just milking it basically. Like it's
Yeah.
the series is
That's a
20
lot of
years
complaints
old.
that people are having.
It's 20 years old now. Like they've told their original story across what
Several generations.
seven books, which is pretty fucking big anyway for a series. There are already so many, like it's already like bred so many imitators. There's always basically I can't really think of any young adult kind of novel series before Harry Potter that was as influential. And now they're all over the place. Like say like
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring it up.
It's a genre now.
Yeah, Twilight.
Hunger Games.
Yeah, it's all over the place. Like we don't really need to continue Harry Potter. It's already given off so many imitators to a lesser extent, I'd say.
I do have to admit, like it's pretty cool what it did for like
Yeah.
reading for young kids because like it definitely turned a lot of kids onto reading.
Encouraged me to read. That was probably the most influential book series when I was when
Yeah.
I was a child reading books.
Like everybody turned out, like everybody knew
Yeah.
Harry Potter growing up.
Just looking at like cheeky Rotten Tomatoes here, I gotta say, one of the most consecutively consistent fresh ratings I think I've seen for a franchise. Like we're talking 80%, 82%, 91%, 88, 78, 84, 79, and then 96.
Not
That's-
sure why that one's nice.
Wow.
That's a pretty like consecutively strong favoritive
Yeah,
critical opinion.
something
Like,
that's not a Marvel film.
that's
Yeah.
pretty impressive.
Dude.
Wait, did you count from 1 to 8 or 1 to Fantastic Beasts?
I ignored Fantastic Beasts,
I gotta say that's
but that's still got 74.
real quick.
That's
What
the
do you
lowest
guys what's your favorite movie out of the series? Like, does
Ooh.
anyone have a favorite?
Easily book and movie Goblet of Fire.
The last
I
movie.
like- I
when
like
Harry
one with-
dies.
Definitely Harry.
Yeah, I love the one where the kids die.
Harry guys. Yeah.
I can't remember it.
Ooh.
I like
Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yeah.
That's my
Prisoner of
favorite.
Azkaban. I found this out later. You know, it's the same guy who did Children of Men.
Really?
Yeah.
And, which I'm like, oh, fucking no wonder.
No one.
I like the book because I feel like that was the first one that took a darker turn in the book series.
Yeah,
I'd
it
say-
definitely
Like to me,
was.
like the second one had like child death.
No, I'd
But-
say, I'd say
I mean, that's
There's a lot of child death going on.
argument can be made that that's quite dark, but
I don't even remember that at
I'd-
all.
Prisoner of
I'd-
Azkaban
Well,
like,
definitely
introduced
dead
serial
time.
killers and
Prisoner of Azkaban was the
dementors.
third. That was my favorite
Yeah.
one too. Like Goblet was pretty awesome as well.
I'd say because I wasn't watching it. I got a friend and his girlfriend was just showing him the Harry Potter film series, and they were going through they're up to Chamber of Secrets, I think. So I watched probably the last 2/3. So I missed the first third of it and watched the rest. But yeah, it just like obviously like it went right over my head because I was like what fucking like 5 or 6 or whatever when that one came out. But yeah, it's so like in retrospect like it's so noir that one. Like it's basically a detective murder mystery throughout Hogwarts. If you go back and watch it, like
Which one?
Chamber of Secrets.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
They're going through all the clues. They're following all the leads. There's all this tension between Harry might be the suspect. It's like it's pretty full on actually. Like it actually probably goes through quite a lot of subgenres.
Is that
Like,
the one with
that's-
the invisibility cloak and
the snake that's been killing
The
the
snake.
basilisk that's killing been killing
And giant spiders.
And then
Yeah.
is that the one with the
Tom
dead
Riddle.
girl on the yeah.
yeah
Yeah, Moving
Toilet.
Myrtle.
Yeah.
The toilet, the dead girl in the
Yeah,
toilet.
she was like 30 fucking.
she was in
Yeah.
fucking, she was in friggin' train
She was
spotting.
really old when
like
they
a
filmed that.
16-year-old.
Yeah, she was in train
Oh,
spotting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was she in Trainspotting?
She was like
She was the actual
one of the
child.
girlfriends.
She was the trend. She was like, she was like
Yeah.
She was like Spud's girl who he like just throws his sheets at. Remember?
Oh, really?
I'm pretty sure. That was
Yeah,
her.
that
That's funny.
memorable.
If anyone wants
Came
to,
back
like,
with a
get into
sequel as well.
details.
It's gross.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, they just did a 4th book with the Trainspotting crew.
Wow.
Just on a side note.
Really?
Yeah, I saw it the other day.
Yeah.
Anyway.
They should.
It's going to be a bit fun for Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. You want to keep talking about Harry Potter or heroin?
Personally, I want to talk about heroin.
I want to see the crossover with
The stresses of Harry's life gets to him. He becomes a heroin addict.
yeah.
Well, Renton is a redhead in the book, so I mean, Ron could easily just grow up and lose
Maybe.
contact with Harry in 5 years.
What is that? What is that guy doing today?
Who?
Emma Watson.
No,
Emma Watson.
the guy who plays
Rupert
Ron.
Grint.
This is how it.
Yeah.
Rupert Grint.
Is he alive? I don't know.
He was in a World War One film, I think. That was the last I saw of him.
Last thing I saw of him was a trailer for a Kickstarted movie, like version of Macbeth. I think that was it.
How long was that ago?
A couple of years ago. Anyway,
Yeah.
Dude just put up a picture of Emma Watson, you know?
Emma Watson's mouth.
Just decided to pass the camera.
Don't really understand that.
Thanks, Jude.
Lucky we're not doing a video podcast.
Soon.
Is that sexist?
What?
It's not, right?
What?
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 Me putting like a photo of Emma Watson up and showing 5 men.
Well, you,
In what way is it? I don't understand why you show it to us.
Me neither. I think it's for
I didn't
attention.
get
I
the
think I'm a piece of
Jude
shit.
was like, well, I've got a MacBook, guys. Hey,
Fucking attention.
Anyway,
Holy
She's
shit.
a great actress.
so what did you want to say, Nick? Harry Potter?
I think we discussed most of it.
Are you
Is this where we end?
are you a pothead?
No, I'm just a big fan of Harry Potter.
Or Emma Watson?
Is
Emma
anyone a
Watson-
pothead or a pot enthusiast? Or?
Didn't Emma Watson go to like
We're getting
Harvard
into
school? Isn't she
incriminating.
incredibly
Yeah.
talented in so many fields? Like
I think she like went to Oxford. I don't think she went to
I don't
Harvard.
know. I'm pretty sure she went to some
I like
prestigious school,
America,
but like,
so.
yeah, I don't know. So,
you could go. Awesome.
Cool. Well, I think that wraps up. What episode are we up to?
Three.
Three.
There's been so many of
Good
them.
spot to
Every
end it
time
on,
we
on
end,
Emma Watson's
it's
education.
ridiculous.
Shout outs to no one. Shout outs to Avengers because that came out today. We're not talking about
To
it.
this
Yeah.
location.
We might have a review soon, maybe.
Maybe I might see it in
Probably
2
not.
weeks.
Yeah.
I think that would be a fun podcast.
An entire episode dedicated to
Yeah,
Avengers.
let's do
Just
an
an
Avengers
hour.
thing.
Let's make sure.
No one else on the internet will do that.
We should
No,
probably
yeah.
make sure.
yeah, nobody.
It'd be more fun, I reckon, if all of us, well, whoever the fuck's going to be in the
Or go to
episode.
IMAX.
No, go read Infinity Gauntlet and go see Infinity War. So you actually have like,
Way too much of it.
well, not really. It's only going to be like an hour to read.
I gotta say,
Infinity
I am
Gauntlet.
not gonna do that.
The movie's like
Well, I'd like to compare.
I'm not even going to see the movie. Let's just do the podcast.
I think it'll be like Civil War. It won't be anything like this is an interesting ending to the podcast.
the movie's like more than 2 hours and a half
There will be
long.
edits.
There will be edits.
Is it really?
Well, all right, guys. We'll find us on Anchor, iTunes, Facebook,
Podcast.
YouTube, obviously.
YouTube, Pocket Podcast,
Yep.
and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
All right.
Cheers.
See ya.
Later.
Yeah.